In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how you can improve faster, if not instantly on controller, by giving you guys advice that you need to know whether you're a beginner or already decent. I'm going to be going over everything from how you hold your controller or to what sensitivity or binds you should use, so make sure to stick around to the end of the video because I promise you will learn something new from it. Okay, first things first, I think the most important and overlooked thing is actually how you hold your controller. By that, I mean how you place your thumbs on your thumbsticks and if you should play claw or if you should play with paddles. So to start off, there's a few different ways you can place your thumbs on your thumbsticks, right? You can place them on the edges, you can place them more towards the center, or you can place them like this, which I don't even know how people play like that, but whatever you feel comfortable playing like, play like that. Just make sure that you're always putting your thumbs in that position every time you play. Otherwise, you're probably going to be missing shots. Similar advice goes with playing claw or paddles. You should try out claw for a bit, but if your fingers hurt or feel uncomfortable while playing claw, then you should just get paddles instead. I wouldn't recommend playing non-claw or paddles because it definitely stops you from doing as much as other controller players and especially keyboard players. So if you want to play with paddles, I'm going to leave a few links in the description of the scuff controller I use. And if you don't want to spend too much money on a controller, then there's also going to be an attachment for a PS5 controller, which is a lot cheaper. The attachment basically just adds paddles to the back of a regular PS5 controller. And so yeah, once you're done and you feel comfortable holding your controller, you now need to set up some custom binds if you haven't already. Now, I will say, if you already have custom binds that you're used to, I actually wouldn't recommend changing them. For example, I've been using these same binds for years, and a while ago, I wanted to change my confirm edit button because it's the same as my switch mode button, so that messes me up if I play confirm edit on release. There was actually a couple other pros that have this exact same problem as me. For example, Re, Cam, and even Phase Sway. But the fact is, none of us changed that edit button because we've built up muscle memory over years of having to press circle instead of a different button to confirm our edit. And so to change that now would just be self-sabotaging. So again, if you already have your own custom keybinds that you're used to, I would just skip to the next part of the tutorial. Okay. So now I'm going to get into my binds. So if you want to switch to custom keybinds, you have to click this option here and get off of Builder Pro or any other option and switch it to custom. Now you'll be able to change your binds however you want. So I have jump as X, which is also one of my back paddles. It's the one on the far left. If you're playing claw or even paddles as well, you could switch it to right stick and have your crouch as your X button as well. It really doesn't make too much of a difference. Just make sure that these two buttons are one or the other. So jump would either be right stick or X, and crouch would either be right stick or X. Next, my sprint is triangle, but that's just because I have it as one of my back paddles. If I didn't have a back paddle, I would use this button, the right D-pad. And then I have my toggle harvesting tool as touchpad. I've been using this for the longest time now. And basically all I do is I slide my left finger down to press the touchpad. And it's just an easier way for me to pull out my pickaxe, and it's what I feel comfortable using. So if you want to try that, go ahead. Then I have place marker as my down button. It's supposed to be the left D-pad normally, but I changed it to down because I feel more comfortable pressing it and I like using the squad comms. Then push to talk, all these buttons right here, they don't really matter, so I don't have them set as anything. But then building, switch mode / edit, basically what this does is it makes it so you have to hold down your edit button, like it says there, to edit. And that's just terrible. You don't want that. You want one button that you press and you're instantly in the edit mode. So don't have this bound as anything. Then your change material button, I have it as the same button as squad comms. So whatever your squad comm button is, you should make it your change material button. Then next, rotate / repair. I just have that as what would normally be my map button. So I open my map with this button normally, but because I'm in the build mode and I don't really need the map, if I ever need to rotate or repair something, I can just use this button instead. Then toggle map, I have unbound because in the building mode, you don't really need to open your map ever. So there's no point in having a map button. I just replace it with the rotate button. Then toggle inventory, obviously that's the usual. Emote / replay, obviously you're going to keep that as the same. Then switch mode, I have a circle. It's a pretty basic bind, but if you're playing claw, you might want to make that triangle or even left stick or something else. And if you're playing paddles like me, you should just use your switch mode as circle, which is my back paddle. But the paddle I use for switch mode isn't next to my jump button. Make sure that your jump button is on the opposite side of your switch mode button. Then repair building, crouch, tap, slide, hold. None of these are really important. Just crouch, tap, slide, hold. This is very important right here. This button right here, you need to make it your crouch button. Because normally in the building mode, if you press right stick, it'll make you rotate a build, and that's going to mess you up while you're trying to build and crouch. One of my friends actually had this on a while ago, and I told him to switch this button. And once he did, he got like 10 times better right away. And all of these other buttons are off. Now this is the most important part, the edit binds. Select, you're going to keep the same. Then confirm, you shouldn't actually use what I use. Like I said before, circle to confirm and have it as switch mode is bad because of what I said before. So if you're trying to get new binds, you could use the same edit binds as me and the same controller binds as me. Just make sure that your confirm button is something like L2. So that we're there, you can get used to left stick edit and then L2 confirm. And then you can also play with confirm edit on release if that's what you want to do. Now, obviously I use circle though. Reset L1. This is what I've been using for the longest time. So I'm kind of used to it. But you can make it anything as long as it's not your crouch button, because normally the crouch button, which is right stick, is actually reset as well. And that's going to mess you up the same way it would mess you up in the build mode. And then edit building, I have as left stick. The best editing binds for any controller player is touchpad or left stick. So if you want to get better at controller, use either the touchpad, which is this button, and that's only for PS5 players. So if you're on Xbox, use left stick edit. Really, on any controller, you should be left stick edit because it's the easiest to press. And if you have L2 confirm, you don't really have to move your fingers at all off of your thumbsticks to edit. Then here, crouch, tap, slide, hold obviously is going to be your crouch button. Normally this is unbound and it would be your reset button instead. So you want to make sure that you make this right stick or whatever your crouch button is. And then you make your reset button something different. Now the rest of the settings are pretty useless, so you can just copy mine or you can just leave them how they are for you. Okay, I'm going to keep the sensitivity tab short and simple. If you want to copy my settings, here they are. Now you guys might notice I am playing on linear now when I was playing exponential before. That's because I had a couple bad days on my old linear sensitivity, which is the one I'm using right now. And so I decided to switch to exponential. Don't do that. Just the same way as it is with binds, it's going to sabotage you and you're going to end up losing your muscle memory. And I went back to linear in this sensitivity and I already feel 10 times better. This is a good basic settings to kind of start off with. So if you play on linear, you can try these and then go into an aim map. And if 43 feels too fast or too slow, you can raise it or lower it. Just make sure that these two are even, and your build mode and edit mode should be somewhere between 1.5 and 2.4, depending on how fast your look horizontal and vertical speed is. So for example, if I look vertical speed and horizontal speed was 54, I would probably lower these two. But since my sensitivity is on 43, I keep 1.9 build mode and 2.2 edit mode because that's what I feel comfortable with. And by the way, you can always change your look horizontal and vertical speed and then keep the same build and edit mode. For example, if I wanted to play on the same build and edit mode speed as 43% and 1.9, I would just do 43 times 1.9 and then divide it by the new sensitivity. So for example, 43 times 1.9 is 81.7. And if I want to find a new build mode for my new sensitivity, which would be 52, I would divide 81.7 by 52, and my new sensitivity says 1.5711 and a bunch of numbers after, but you're just going to want to round it up to 1.6. Basically, the equation is old sense times build sense divided by new sense will give you, when you divide it by the new sense, you will get your new build and edit sense. And then for your ADS, it's the same thing. Just go in an aim trainer map and play between these numbers until you feel confident. 12% I find is what is perfect for me on linear. And then I play on an 8 and 8 dead zone, and that's because if I push my right stick ever so slightly, you'll see the yellow circle lines up with the blue circle when I push it. Let's say my right stick dead zone was 16 and I did the same thing. Look how much smaller the yellow circle is. So that would mean my dead zone is bad because if I start pushing my right stick, the same way goes with a low dead zone. If my dead zone is 5%, look how much bigger the yellow circle is than the blue. So that's why I play on 8 and 8 dead zone. do the same thing and you'll be able to find out what dead zone is perfect for you. And just make sure that in game, when you move your stick, you don't have stick drift. And if you're still using the old basic settings, let's say they're 6 and 2, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take use advanced options, you're gonna turn it on, and you're just gonna go down to copy from basic. And then you're gonna get rid of all of these boosts and delays to like have inconsistencies and mess up. And then your new sensitivity will be 34, 34, 11, 11. But obviously, because you're probably used to the boost, you might want to put this up a little bit more to 38 or even up to 40. Just make sure to play around with it until you're used to it. And since you were using the basic settings, if you're used to it, you're probably used to exponential. So I would stick to exponential. There is no better input curve, contrary to what everybody says. Linear and exponential are just as good. It just depends on your playstyle. If you want to be mostly mechanics and fast, then you want to play on linear. But if you want to be smart and really good at aiming, you should play on exponential. But again, my aim is better on linear than exponential. It's more consistent and I enjoy playing on linear more. But at the end of the day, when you're changing sensitivities, make sure you're either changing everything all at once or you're gradually changing things. So out there you don't get to something completely random like 43% and then you're playing on 54%. You're going to mess up way too much and you're just going to get worse. Go from 43 to 44, then 45. And then as you feel more confident on each one of those sensitivities, slowly just build it up each time. Okay, now I'm going to go through every single one of the settings and showing you guys what gives you delay and what you should have on or off. So first, you're going to want to be playing on full screen with 1920 by 1080 resolution. I have VSync off because if you have it on, it might cause you some delay or frame drops. My frame rate limit is on 165, but you should play one above whatever your monitor refresh rate is. So if you have a 144 Hz monitor, you should play on 160. If you have a 165 Hz monitor, you should play on 180 and so on. My rendering mode is performance, brightness 100%, user interface 1, colorblind mode Protanope 5. I like using Protanope because this season it just makes my game feel more clear and I can see people better. My 3D resolution I keep at 100%, but the lowest I'd bring it is 85%, otherwise it gets too blurry. The nanite virtualized geometry I have off, view distance on near, textures on low, meshes on low, basically everything on off or low, just so that way there's no delay. And then I have show FPS on, report performance stats disabled. If you have it enabled, it will give you delay. Then for my audio settings, they're not really important, but I have sound quality on low, background audio off, so I get less delay. Subtitles I have off, extra small, white, none, and clear, just making them as small as I possibly can make them for the less amount of delay. And then visualize sound effects on, so that way there I can hear people walking or shooting or whatever I need to hear. And then for my game settings, I'm on NA East on 35 ping, toggle sprint on, auto open doors on, mantle activation, hold jump, hurdle activation, press jump. Then I have hold to swap pickup on, so that way there I can swap guns without having to drop them. Toggle targeting I have off, mark danger when targeting on, auto pick up weapons off because I don't want to just pick up weapons randomly for no reason. Then my preferred item slots, I have shotgun and SMG as my first two, and the rest are unassigned because that's where I put my heals or my shockwaves or whatever else I want to put. Then auto sort consumables to the right is on. Reset building choice I have on. Disable pre-edit option on, and turbo building on. These three options you need to have like this, because if you have disable pre-edit option off, let's say I want to edit something, but then I edit before I actually place it, and then I make the edit. Now my walls are going to be like this, and this is going to cause me to mess up a lot. So make sure to turn disable pre-edit option on, especially if you're on controller. Then I have auto confirm edits on none, but I would only use edit on release and not reset or both. If you use reset, you won't be able to reset something and then change the edit before confirming. It'll just automatically confirm it, and that's not really good for resetting. For editing, it's fine though. Contextual tips I have off because I don't want delay. Invert view off, obviously. Invert airborne controls, this doesn't really matter, this doesn't really matter either. But then I have NVIDIA highlights off, so I get less delay. Peripheral lighting off for less delay and also for better performance. And then I have tap to search/interact on, so that way there I don't have to hold my interact button to open doors or pick up loot. And then I have record replays off, record large team replays off. Basically all the replay options are off, so that way there I get the less amount of delay. And then same thing with energy saving. Both the energy saving settings should be on off because you want performance and not energy saving. And for my game UI, I have reticle on, reticle ammo indicator on, which basically just shows the ammo next to your reticle. So out there, you know how much bullets you have in your gun. Then my damage numbers are on cumulative, reticle damage feedback on off. It doesn't really matter what you have this one on. Same for the damage numbers. Then my damage numbers scale, make sure to put it all the way up to 125, no matter what HUD scale you're playing on, because you want to make sure you're able to see how much damage you're hitting. And if it's too low, you won't be able to see that. I keep a low HUD scale, so out there I can see whatever's in my peripheral vision, because if you play with too high of a HUD scale like this, for example, look how big the map is. Sometimes if there's a player there, I won't be able to see them, so that's why I put a low HUD scale. Anything between 50 and 75 is pretty good, but I like playing on 60. I have show spectator count on, player health on, all this stuff I have on, except for latency debug stats, because I feel like it just takes up too much of my screen, and I already have the net debug stats so I can see my ping, so this doesn't really matter as much. And then these two at the bottom I have off. I don't know what they do, but apparently they give you less delay if you have them off, so make sure to turn these off. And then in gyro options, I make sure to set everything off, none. Make sure that everything's on 0 so that way you get less delay. Then for mouse and keyboard, if you're on console and you're not playing mouse and keyboard ever, make sure to turn all of your keyboard and mouse settings all the way down to 0. But I play keyboard and mouse sometimes, so I play on this sensitivity. Then ignore controller input off. Obviously both of these off. You don't want to be stuck on keyboard and mouse if you're playing on controller. Use custom diagonals doesn't change how you play on controller, so you can have these on or off, it doesn't really matter. And then same goes for this stuff doesn't really matter right here, so you can just skip over that. Then for your keyboard controls, all you want to change in here is go down to MISC and then go to switch quick bar and change it to any keyboard bind. Basically what this does is it just gives you less delay no matter what. Even if you're on controller or keyboard, it gives you less delay. Then in your controller settings, for the least amount of delay, you want to have most of the options like edit hold time or reset camera time all the way down to 0.1, and then reset camera axis you want to have on both. For some reason this gives you less delay, and obviously you want to have vibration off. And quick weapon, don't use this because it just takes more time to pull out weapons, so use custom only, 0.0 for less delay. And then none of these options here really matter, so I didn't touch them. And then also you want to have enable foot controller off and make sure to have these sliders down to 1 or 0. Okay, so now that you've set up your custom binds, your custom sensitivity, and how you're going to hold your controller, you're going to want to go ahead and practice. Now the best maps to practice on, I find, is starting off with Speed Realistics 1v1s. If you play against somebody that's better than you, you will improve a lot faster than playing against bots. Because when you play against somebody that's better than you, you will get destroyed, but it'll give you less time to think about what bind to press, which in turn will make you a lot faster and a lot better. Because when you're stressed and you're in those stressful scenarios, you're gonna have to learn to get better at handling those situations. And eventually those stressful scenarios will be less stressful and you're just gonna get better and better. But obviously you can't just be a good fighter. You have to either play Tilted Zone Wars or 32 player Zone Wars just to be able to fight multiple opponents at once. Now, obviously, no matter how much you practice in creative, even if you're used to your binds, once you go into game, you're probably not going to do as good. And that's because it's the same thing with any game mode ever. If you don't practice it, you're not going to get better. So you do need to go in game and practice consistently. Otherwise, you're not going to get better. Either play pubs to practice if you're not confident with your new binds and sensitivity. But then as you get more confident, you should start playing ranked. Once you get used to your binds and sensitivity and you start feeling confident, ranked will be a lot easier and you're going to see yourself running through lobbies like it's nothing.
32.